start having people campaigning and also writing different manifestos and different political parties going around promising people this and that. So today I want to look at the issue of young people. When Joshua Mkabu was attending a funeral, Lookout Masu's funeral, General Lookout Masu's funeral, he said, young people, the country will not die, but it's young people who will save it. So my question to this afternoon is, the young people in Zimbabwe serve the country? Will the young people in Zimbabwe serve the country as we go towards the harmonized elections? So joining me today, and there's a panel of people joining me today. Number one of them, Tafato Amugwati, who's an OPF Director for Information and Publicity, is joining us this afternoon. Also, you have Velile Moyo joining us from MRP. This is a person from MRP replacing Bonisi Kumbo. As well as we have Titi Patience Mashiri, who was independent candidate in 2018. Is going to be joining us this afternoon. Again, I have Andrian Chuma, who's coming from APA, who's going to be joining us also this afternoon. I've also been joined by someone from a Triple C, as Mushira Wondo, is going to be joining us also this afternoon to discuss more about the issue of young people. Young people serve the country. Will young people serve it as we go towards the election? Without wasting much time, let me jump into our first speaker for this afternoon. I'm going to listen to the rules of engagement. I'm going to give each speaker 10 minutes to give us a presentation, speaking into the topic, and then we can have follow-up questions thereafter. So my first speaker this afternoon is going to be Patience T. Mashiri, who's going to be giving us his 10 minutes in terms of the presentation. Patience, over to you, ma'am.
Zoom. Where's mine? It's so nice. I want to give him, he said he doesn't want. What is this?
Thank you so much. Right.
Guys, please mute your mics. Before you speak, please make sure your mic is muted. I'm going to give you the chance to speak, and then you can unmute your mic. For now, please unmute your mic. Everyone, mute your mic. I only allow Patience to speak. Patience, I'm giving you 10 minutes to give us your presentation now. You can go ahead with the contribution.
Okay, thank you so much, Brighton, and thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, the Foundation, for giving us this opportunity as young people to express ourselves despite our political differences. I think what I'm really going to talk about today is the youth participation in politics, but I'll briefly share with you just a little bit of my experience in 2018. And as a young female journalist, I wanted also to experience how it is for young people, especially women, to be involved in politics. And of course, I did meet different political leaders from different political parties who also wanted me to be their candidate. But for, like I said before, that for me, it was a kind of a learning phase. I wanted to see how it is for women to participate in politics. So I ran as an independent candidate, and of course I did not make it. But I hope that in the next election I'll make it, because I learned that in Zimbabwe, people do not vote for you because you are capable of representing them, or you'll be able to, to do the great work as a leader, not as a person who's so hungry about power. So people vote along party lines, not knowing what that person will be doing for them when he or she get into parliament or into council or at any political space or any space that you'll be elected to be representing your community. And I think also young people in Zimbabwe, we've been kind of marginalized by political leaders who do not give young people the space and opportunities also to participate in politics, not to participate as voters only, but also to participate as candidates. Let's look at we are talking about all the political parties as well, but also let's look at it like right now. You hear people saying, we young people, we just being used. Sometimes young people are given drugs just to go and cause violence instead of being given these opportunities to stand in parliament or in council. And I also wanted to talk about young people in Zimbabwe to be taking space, because let's look at it. did Anagogonianda or Anasekuruka Gobi or the people who went to war go Bakura? Did they go Batomas Valumaube Achembera? No, they went to war. Look at Anna Joyce Mujuru, look at other people who went to war. They were at a very tender age. So what's so different for us young people to claim these spaces? You are not patriotic when you speak up about the issues that your community is facing. Let's talk about my community, which is Chitungiza, right? It's 42 years after independence and we do not have our own source of water. And because we are being represented by leaders, Vakura, we need to rest, for an opportunity to us young people who are fresh, who are able to represent, because we know the issues that we are facing. That's why myself personally, Brighton, and another person who's listening, I'm really inspired by a leader from the opposition, Advocate Nelson Chamisa. You see, he joined politics at a very tender age, and right now, see, he's leading a big opposition political party because he has the resilience. He knows that if I step up for these, things may happen. But then looking at the politics that we have the politics of heart. See the people that we are creating. If we do not give the opportunity to young people right now, what kind of generation are we creating for the next 10 years? Because if we are saying young people, we are the leaders of today, not tomorrow. So if we are not given the opportunity right now, what generation are we creating? And I think because of these political spaces that we have also, sometimes young people are afraid to take up these spaces because of fear of political violence that happens in Zimbabwe. Because sometimes as a young woman, you're thinking, why for nothing, and people tend to forget about these people who get beaten. And sometimes we tend to forget and not talk about the history that happens during the election. Sometimes, Brighton, as young people, we need to remind each other what happened in 2018. We come up with names, share those stories of those young people who were right from a short sleeve and long sleeve in that period, so that we continue to inspire each other. But then my main word to the young people also is to say, if you continue to be used by these political people to go and fight other young people, what do you think tomorrow will happen? Look at it right now. We have a beautiful parliament, which is new. And you see people sleeping because they are tired. You can't be spending more than 15 years in parliament. What are you still doing, really? You need to be planning for the next exit plan. These leaders, they do not want to give us young people the opportunity because they do not plan their exit plan right on. If you plan your exit plan, you will know that when I get in parliament for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to do this and this and this. And also, I feel like young people in the church spaces, speaking as a newly, ordained first female pastor in my church, I also feel like, in these churches, when we want to talk about politics in church, people in church, they feel like politics is for those in the world, because they say politics it's a dirty game and you're trying to put yourself as a Christian, you want to be clean. But also, we need to blame these church leaders for not aspiring young people in church to take up these spaces. Imagine having someone in parliament who fear God. Do you think they would steal for people? Do you think we will have corruption in Zimbabwe if we have people who know and understand that, if someone from church hears CDF, if someone from church hears what I misused these funds, or what would Jesus do if he hears this is what I've been doing? So I feel like the church is also letting young people down by not inspiring them to take these spaces. And I also feel like the political leaders, Tangira, also are kind of gatekeeping, closing these doors for us. Like I said, that in 2018, I did run as an independent candidate, and people in St. Mary's did not vote for me, not because I'm not capable to represent them. I'm sure if I had made it in parliament by now, there could be changes in St. Mary's right now. But people vote along party lines, not looking at the face. You just go up a ballot and you say, Councillor, MP and presidential, because they are voting with us at the presidential face, not looking at the faces of the people whom we are voting for, and we end up complaining. Right now, there are people also who are more than 20 years in parliament, but we are the one who vote for them. So I think also the other thing that I would also want to share is the reason why I chose another political party that I chose to be part of is because of seeing the leadership that they are trying to bring. You know, but I'm not going to talk much about political party name or whatever, but today I'm here as an independent candidate who stood in 2018. But I also want to encourage my presidential candidate, Jayo. Let's look at it. If they really love us, young people, I think also young people who are listening right now, if people in politics loved us that much, we are the majority of the population in Zimbabwe. So why is it no presidential candidate, no political leader complained about the 10 seats that were approved for us in the next general election? It means they don't care about us. Why is it in parliament we have few members of parliament who are young people, yet we are the majority? Why is it in terms of ministers, Jairo, we do not have my young people, probably one or two? Why is it in those decision-making spaces we do not have young people? It's because of these gatekeepers. It's because of these people who have the opportunity to kind of mentor other people. We have the capacity to represent others. You know, you get into parliament as a PR, women, and you go there for the first 5 years because you know you have the capacity to talk to other people. You can encourage another young women to come to that PR system and to work with constituents capacity. But those women also who get into parliament through PR system, they are just like this because they're enjoying, they think they went to parliament to eat. And you know, recently, right now, people are really busy discussing about the 40K, the 500K in the groups to talk of it. It shows you the kind of people that you have, that when people get into parliament, they forget that you are going there to represent people, not yourself. You know, sometimes, let's look at it right now. You know, in Chitumbisa, we have a certain bowl that you cannot go and fetch water there if you do not have a card, whatever. You know, I'm still trying to understand party politics, but you need to have a membership card so that you'll be able to fetch water at that bowl. So my question then says, if someone gets into parliament, do you represent only your political party, or you now represent the whole constituency, including those who voted for you, those who did not vote for you? In fact, the whole of your constituency that stays in your constituency, about 25,000 plus people, that's the people you represent. So I think our politics is really polarized and we need to change that narrative. And I would want to encourage young people to take up these spaces in their political parties. Leaders, they should give you an opportunity. And then I would want to be the first female MP in Chitumbisa, because imagine since 1980, no female MP. And remember, if we could have my females more, we could have something real, because women, we understand more what people face rather than the other gender. And you know, my results right now when we have the other gender ruling the country. So I think for now, I will end here, Brighton. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pesh, for sharing those issues there. We touched on the number of issues. Number one, touched on the issue of the 10 seats being given to the young people. Young people are the majority in Zimbabwe, but however, they're given 10 seats. To say in parliament, we're going to give you 10 seats, but however, we are the majority. But also, we have seen over the past years, Pesh, where young people have been used as conduits of violence in terms of election. They've been used as conduits of violence. Like again, young people stay there under youth wing, but they never make it to the main wings of the political parties, and they never run for political office in terms of running for MP or running for presidential. For now, we have different young people and different sections, different parties doing different things, but we never see them making decisions in their parties and also contributing to governance of the country. Now, let me bring Tafato Mugute from ZANU-PF. I want to hear from him in terms of young people served the country. She touched on the issue that Joyce Mujuru, when she was a minister, she was young. When our parents left the country to go to war, they were younger. Some of them were 21, some of them were 14. What have young people done so far in Zimbabwe? Have they tried to serve the country? In the next coming elections, will we see young people serving the country? Tafatso Mukoti, good afternoon. Welcome to this discussion. Tafatso? Tafatso, are you there? So let's try to wait for Tafatso to join us there. I'm seeing him. He's there on the Zoom, but he hasn't joined. But also, let me bring Hanana. Hanana, I'm truly saying Hanana from Zapu. He's the SG for Zapu right now. Let's talk about the issues of young people. They tried to serve this country. We know part of people who went to the war are from Zapu. During the Zebra days, they were young. When they joined the strike when they were young, some were 18, some were 21. Will young people now in Zimbabwe serve the country, Mr. Hanana?
Good afternoon, Brighton. Good afternoon to fellow panelists and everyone who is listening to us. I'm very much appreciative of the opportunity here to comment on young people and them serving the country. But I think one of the most important things that we must understand, for the longest of times when we talk about a country that needs saving, we give an example of the Smith regime or the exploits of our fathers when they were saving the country from Smith. But when you read into when the ZAPU president at the time, Joshua Nkomo, said this statement, you'll discover that he was not talking from a perspective of a country being saved from a colonial master. He was talking already in an independent Zimbabwe where a lot of things were happening. And at that time, it was at the funeral of Lookout Masu, where he said, young people will save this country. So you realize that as early as 1986, visionary leaders like Joshua Nkomo knew that the liberation struggle has been betrayed, that the vision of the struggle has been abandoned, that we had strayed as a country. When others were still celebrating, Joshua Nkomo was able to see that this Zimbabwe that we have won will one day need to be saved. When you look at the things that were happening at the time, you'll discover that we were at the just coming out of the Kukurahundi era, where a lot of people had been killed by a government. A lot of people had been butchered and murdered in a genocide that up to today has still not been resolved. So Joshua Nkomo saw the killing of people and knew that at some point this country will need saving. And as we look into that also, you discover that there was also the imprisonment of political opponents. In jail, there was Lookout Masu, who had actually was being buried that day, who had died in prison. We had a lot of ZAPU leaders who at the time were opposition that were imprisoned, including Dumiso Dabenga, on spurious charges and allegations. Some had been declared by the courts that they are innocent, but the state went ahead and imprisoned them. We had a lot of leaders. Some have actually been forgotten. The likes of Norman Zikali. There are a lot of our people and ZANU leaders that were there. And whilst others were in prison, others were being killed. We have the likes of Jinin Tuta, was killed in cold blood, and the murderer of Jinin Tuta is buried at the National Shrine. So Nkomo sees all these things, and he sees that Zimbabwe will need to be saved. But also, you discover that at the very same time, we have ZAPU properties that had been confiscated by the state under the guise that they were dissidents somewhere. We had a state that creates imaginary enemies so that it is an excuse to kill its own citizens instead of protecting them. There is a proverb that says, before a hyena eats one of its young, it will first accuse it of smelling like a goat, so that when it eats the young one, people will think, no, it is mistaken for a goat. These are the predator tendencies that were there at the time when President Joshua Nkomo made that statement that young people will save the country. But also remember that in 1985, just a few months before the statement is said, there had been an election, and that election had been marred with a lot of political violence, where opposition candidates were killed. ZAPU lost about 6 candidates that were killed in that particular election all over the country, including in Harare, where we had the likes of Simon Chauruka that were killed. Our party treasurer, Kenneth Mano, had also been wounded in political violence. Our own president, Joshua Nkomo, had been barred from campaigning in Chitungwiza, has been barred from campaigning in Maswingo. So when he looks at everything that is happening, he sees that what we're seeing now is not normal. We will need another generation to rise up one day and save the country. So I'm giving this background so that people understand the issues that Joshua Nkomo had in his mind when he said that the young people need to serve the country, because it sounds very nice and very good and very sophisticated to say we're young people, we want to save the country. But we must understand what the country needs to be saved from, number one, because every generation has a mandate. And as this generation of young people, we must understand what our mandate is and what the country needs to be saved from. So when Joshua Nkomo continued speaking, you realize that one of the things, he touched about 11 things, but in the interest of time, maybe I'll touch about 4 or 5 that I feel are important. One of the things that he did touch on was the legacy of the liberation struggle. It was at the funeral of Lukot Masuku, who had been denied hero status, regardless of the fact that he is one of the most senior and eminent Zimbabweans that fought in the liberation struggle. Why was he denied liberation hero status? It is because he was viewed as somebody who is from the opposition. And it is the same thing that we are seeing today. We still have a lot of other people that are deserving to be heroes. But the issue of heroes has been privatized by a clique of pseudo-revolutionaries that have given themselves power that they don't have, power to declare who is a hero or not. Most of those people are not even in war, but they are doing that. You have a scenario where the history of ZAPU in the liberation struggle is not being spoken about. We have people that are trying to embellish history by giving people credentials that they don't have. We have a bastardization of our history. We have a lot of things that are happening, and these are things that Joshua Nkomo was talking about. To say you can't ignore a man like Lukot Masuku, but we have our veterans being ignored. And then he says Lukot Masuku died a pauper. The same thing that we have today. Most veterans of the liberation struggle are dying paupers. They're benefiting nothing from the state. And the state actually uses politics to continually run a process of vetting people as a way of getting them to vote for the ruling party. But people did not go to war to be ZANU-PF members. People went to war so that they can enjoy their country. And they should be given benefits by virtue of that they went to war. But no, what is happening now, our people must be associated to ZANU for them to get any form of benefit, for them to get any form of recognition. We have a privatization of the war. We have a privatization of the history and liberation struggle. And these are some of the things that Joshua Nkomo was talking about. And then the other thing that I was talking about that is still relevant even in our context is the issue of lawfare, where the law is used not to protect or defend citizens. It is used to suppress, it is used to oppress, it is used to punish and not really to rehabilitate people and protect them. As we are here today, we have opposition members that have been denied bail for a long time. The likes of Job Sikala, Elistol is out now. We have the Nyastima 16, we have the MRP 9. We have a lot of people that are being abused by the law. The state interferes with the judiciary, and the law is used to fight our people. So these are things that Nkomo was saying that there's going to be a need for another generation to come and fight about. Nkomo also in that speech spoke about corruption and unemployment. As early as 1986, Nkomo knew that corruption and unemployment is rife, and if it's not dealt with, it's going to continue until another generation of young people comes to defend the country and save it. He also spoke about the issue of land, where people went to war for land so that everyone can have land. But now for you to get land and own land, you have to join ZANU-PF, you have to have a party card and stuff like that. And these are the very same things that were happening. Like in the 1985 election, Joshua Nkomo was clear. He said, if you're a ZAPU member and you feel that your life is under threat, get a ZANU-PF card so that when it's needed, you can produce it. But when you go to the ballot, you vote for ZAPU. So, and these are things that are happening. Our politics then, when Nkomo said these things, was toxic. Up to today, our politics is still toxic. There's still a lot of violence. there is still a lot of infringement of rights. In that speech, also Nkomo spoke about the issue of hate politics. He actually said you cannot run a country by saying pass with somebody, because once you're in leadership, once you're in government, your role is not to ensure that somebody goes pass, but your role is to uplift them. So he's speaking into toxic politics to say our country must be saved from toxic politics. So they also spoke of freedom of expression to say people were being arrested for expressing their views. So these are some of the things that we need to realize. That when Nkomo says our young people will save this country, he knew what he was talking about. And the things that he was talking about then are relevant to us now. 1986, at that funeral, Joshua Nkomo said something is tragically and radically wrong in this country. And the funny thing is that whatever was radically and tragically wrong then is still radically and tragically wrong now. But the key question, Brighton, now is why would Joshua Nkomo say young people must save a country? I think this is a man that had been in war for almost 40 years. And when he gets to 1986, he understands that for any country to have meaningful change, there must be young people that understand their mandate, and also that there must be young people that are in the forefront that are leading. And young people generally, I see people say, no, the older guys are not giving us platforms and stuff like that. That's not the case. Young people have energy. Young people must take and make initiative. I, for one, am a Secretary General of ZAPU. I was never invited by somebody. It was never given to me on a silver platter to say, come and be Secretary General. I had to campaign. I had to mobilize. I had to canvass support and make sure that I occupy space. So we are looking for a generation of young people that understands this mandate, that needs to understand also what needs to be done. And having understood that, we should have a generation of young people that does not wait to be given opportunities and platforms. We should not confine ourselves to the youth quarter. We should not confine ourselves to the youth league or something of that sort, a youth front or youth formations in our party, because we are the people that should benefit from the activities that we are doing now. Politics is no Sunday school where people must be confined to a certain space. We must take initiative. We must take over. In ZAPU, we were the young people that started the liberation movement, that started the activism from Janda and stuff like that. These were operations that were run by young people. So this is what we expect. But Joshua Nkomo says young people should save this country. Why? Because he knew that he was going to get into an arrangement of sorts where if he's not careful, either Robert Mugabe would kill them all, or they would have to join Robert Mugabe and his party for a season. And he knew that the people that he had gone to war with have no capacity now to change the trajectory and the projection of the country, because they are going to bed with an enemy. So he knew that he's going to have an arrangement which came in the form of the Unity Accord, where he gave people a chance to live. Joshua Nkomo made sure that he had to choose between power and being obstinate, and the other choice was to save people's lives. He chose to save the lives of people, and so that our people can live, go home, rest, move away from war, set up families. When children are born, it is that generation that was born from 1986, 87, 88 coming this side, and that Joshua Nkomo was envisioning, that it has a responsibility of making sure that the country has to be saved. And we must be clear, the country needs to be saved from all the things that I've mentioned, but chief amongst these things, the country must be saved from ZANU-PF. Whatever happens in 2023, our people must work together and make sure that we save this, our beloved country, from the clutches of the predator ruining party in the second-hand republic that we are currently experiencing in this country. Thank you, Brighton.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anana, for raising those issues. They touch on a number of issues. You touch on the issue of land. The issue of land, to say there are people without land in Zimbabwe, but however, the land is back to the majority, but however, we remain landless. Touch again on the issue of political violence, where we've seen Joshua Nkomo was speaking at the Lookout Masuku funeral. We are saying young people must save this country. This country will never die. Let's speak about corruption. Days later, this thing still applies now. I want to get the reaction from Tafazo Mogwadi from ZANU-PF in terms of how does he react was a statement made by the late father of Zimbabwe, Joshua Mugabe, to say the country will not die, but its young people will serve it. Young people serve the country, Mr. Mugwadi. Over to you, sir. Go ahead with the presentation. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to go ahead with the presentation, sir.
I thought I've been waiting for almost 30 minutes listening to somebody giving a presentation here.
Yes,
then
you
are telling me that, no, goodbye.
Mr. Mugwadi, the thing is, we're given every speaker 10 minutes to speak. I first gave patients 10 minutes to speak, and now I've given Mr. Anana from ZAPO 10 minutes to speak. Now it's your turn to give your presentation as well. Unfortunately, we have lost Mr. Mugwadi there. He has left the Zoom. Right, let's move on with the discussion. Let's try to move on. He will join us. Please don't worry. He's going to join us as we move on with discussion. Mr. Velile Moyo, you are now representing Mbonisi Kumbu from Choga as a public party. We're speaking about the issue of young people serving the country. Yeah, the young people serve Zimbabwe yet. Please go ahead to the presentation, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Brighton, for the time, and also greetings to everyone here on the platform and to the listeners as well. Right, it's quite an interesting subject here that is being discussed, especially regarding the context of Zimbabwe and the ongoing things that are happening in Zimbabwe and how young people can contribute towards salvaging the ravaged country that we see today as Zimbabwe. Probably maybe the first question that we can be asking ourselves is, when Joshua was actually talking about the young people saving the country, probably which generation or which young people was Dr. Joshua Nkomo referring to? Was it a prophetic thing or he was saying out of experience? I am not so sure. But the previous speakers have already highlighted some of very important aspects of this revolution, which is tapped from it as saying, I'm sure Joshua Nkomo was actually saying there must be an ongoing arrangement to safeguard the liberation struggle they actually contributed in bringing independence Zimbabwe, as SGU Hanana has actually highlighted it. So we are looking at this to say, from the time that probably Dr. Nkomo spoke these words, it might actually be over generations and generations. Now we are talking of over 40 years, somewhere there. And then we are looking at people that were born somewhere during that time, around the 1980s, who probably today are the people probably that have passed the stage of being young people. But still, if I can refer it, let's say people like Abu Hana, like I myself, we are past the stage of young people. We are at another stage, the early ages of adulthood. But we have seen and experienced quite a lot of things that have been happening in Zimbabwe. And then that's where it comes in the narrative to say, how then do we tap in? We saw or we heard what happened during that time, and we actually experienced what happened since the dawn of independence up to today. And then we actually, our generation, the people that were born somewhere there around the 80s when independence was coming in there, you might actually describe we are the people that actually suffered the most. So then now the question is, if we suffered so much, are we the ones that are referred to take over this duty to save the nation, or there are generations that are coming later, say around those born around 90s, 2000, somewhere there? I think that's a question for us to just ponder on. But I'm looking at a situation here whereby nationally as Zimbabwe does or do believe in what Joshua Nkomo was saying, and does everyone believe the contributions that Joshua Nkomo actually did together with more other countries that actually contributed to the independence of Zimbabwe? Those are the questions that actually we keep asking ourselves. And then it goes back to the narrative to say the context in which we're actually speaking this is the one that influences or speaks to what we're actually discussing here. Because we're looking at the ongoing propaganda that has been emphasized by Zimbabwe post-independence, even up to today. And then ask ourselves a question, are young people understanding exactly what Joshua Nkomo is talking about? or are the young people understanding the real essence of the revolution as it was from the time when Zimbabwe was attaining its independence? Then we look at the very context which I am actually trying to drive my points to say, for the young people to be able to serve the country, Zimbabwe as a country, there is a lot that they need to do. In essence, we are looking first from the propaganda element. From 1980s, all the contributions by ZAPU, by ZIPRAFs have been buried in the ground. No one is able to translate for surely in the books of history where people are being taught history, the truth is spoken as to how everyone contributed. To a point that you might be speaking right now, other young people don't believe in Joshua Nkomo. They don't believe in his contributions because why? The usual or the common propaganda that is being spoken actually makes Joshua Nkomo to appear as someone who didn't contribute much. But from the archives of history, you can see that from the formations of ZAPU, as Euhanana has been saying out there, that they are the ones who started this revolution for independence against the white system, the white regime. But hardly you will see that being emphasized in the books of history to teach the young people the real essence or the alpha and the omega of the revolution that we are actually now talking about. And then that's where the first correction is to be done here. We need the right facts to give us the right narrative of history, because history is going to project us into the future. Therefore, if we are not having the right narrative of history and we are building upon a certain propaganda that was influenced by certain people sitting somewhere for them to achieve their own agendas, then actually the young people have a wrong direction, will take a wrong trajectory. They actually go tangent toward. So right now, I'm sure there is a lot that needs to be done in terms of correcting the propaganda that was actually given out, especially by ZANU-PF as a party, and also the very people that are still propagating the very essence of our existence within the context of Zimbabwe. And then coming out from under the contributions that Dr. Nkomo did, that's where we look at parties like ZAPU to say, ZAPU, we need you to come on board and then bring all the history as practically as you can, so that everyone, even the young people today, may be able to grasp the real truth about the revolution. That's why you see that in the context of Zimbabwe, there is a disunity that is ongoing. There is an enclave, or I can say there's some bifurcation that is ongoing there, a narration whereby Zimbabwe is divided into two. Why? Because if you look at what ZIPRA did and the vision that Joshua Nkomo had for the nation as a nationalist, we could be very far by today, but all that was buried in the sands. Even up to today, people would rather celebrate other people instead of celebrating Dr. Joshua Nkomo. So if there are people today that are vilifying Dr. Joshua Nkomo, then in SA, how many people are believing what Doctor was saying in terms of the young people serving the nation? And then we look at the country as a whole and ask ourselves also included, to say what has been invested in the young people for them to be able to stand in a position to salvage the country. And then we go back to the words that were spoken by the previous speakers who said the young people were actually the ones that were involved in the revolution. Most of those people were very young, at the ages of 20, at the ages of 19, at the ages of 25, up to 30 somewhere. They were young people that were actually keen to say this is time to leave the country. But then if you get the concept also of the liberation struggle, you will see that globally it was a ripe time to say this is the time, it is ripe. Anyone who wanted to say we are ready to save our nation, or say we are ready to actually fight for the revolution, they were given an opportunity to go and meet up there. They were given Iskali, they were given money to go and start the struggle. So there was an opportunity there. But now there is no opportunity, or the avenues are closed. And then where do the young people begin? Then now it goes back to the question of all of us who seemingly believe that ZANU-PF is the perpetrator of all this propaganda. That means it is us now who are supposed to take up the duty to say, how much do we invest in the young people? They say to change a certain generation, it takes about 24 years. That means from a child, when a child is born, until a child finishes university at around 24. Then there, what you input to the child from the time they are grade 0 until they finish university is what is going to change the generation. So that it means to say, the argument is, what have we invested ourselves? We might talk these as words and contribution to say, well, young people are going to serve it. But we understand what those who served Zimbabwe from the colonial era went through for them to do that? What kind of education did they receive? What kind of money that everyone is cropped into a ZANU-PF ideology? So it goes back there. There's the economic element, there's the capital element, there's the leadership element that also needs to be inputted on the young people for them to be able to take a step to stand up and change the nation. But we might actually argue and say not all of them will be able to do that. But now it goes back to say, what are our schools doing? What are our colleges doing in terms of investing in making leadership to be a reality within the context of Zimbabwe? You'll discover that people are more politicking in everything.
Mr. Moyo, I can't hear you now. I guess the following problems with the network. Maybe try to wrap up. Your network is bad. You're breaking. I can't hear you now clearly.
Try to fall under a certain determination to say, let's teach people to be.
So, Mr. Moyo, I was saying, try to wrap up. I can't hear you. You're breaking. Maybe just on that note, let's just conclude your presentation. Let's move on to another speaker there. I have Adrian Chuma from APA. He's the Alliance, an agenda for people's agenda for National Youth Secretary General. That's Adrian Chuma coming from APA there, which is led by Dr. Nkosana, which was led by Dr. Nkosana Moyo. So, Adrian, good afternoon. Welcome to this discussion this afternoon. Adrian? Adrian, try to unmute your mic. All right, we can't seem to be getting Adrian there. All right, Mr. Moyo, you're saying something around the issues of young people, which young people should defend this track, which young people should serve Zimbabwe. Because when Dr. Nkoma was speaking, they were speaking during a time where he was bearing the late General Lookout Masuku. But now, at our generation now that we're in, looking forward that next year we're going to the elections, will young people serve the country? Will the young people serve it? Have they served it? I see Adrian. Yeah, you can go ahead with the presentation. Adrian, please unmute your mic. Adrian, please unmute your mic and go ahead to the presentation.
Sorry, Brighton. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You can go ahead, sir.
Sorry, can you please come again? This has just happened, and then I'm now on data. I think the last thing I heard was you calling out my name. I didn't hear what the rest of the thing that you said. As you can see, I'm in the dark. I no longer have the same light as I had.
It's okay. So let's speak to the theme of the discussion this afternoon. Have young people serve the country? Will they serve the country to go towards the elections next year?
Okay. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone else. Maybe perhaps let me allow me to begin by thanking you for organizing this event and everyone else who was part of the organizing team. Well, I think this is a very imperative topic, right? A topic that's not only key to the development of our country, but then also a topic that came about as a quotation, as a quote, I mean, from a liberator, from a country's liberator.
Well, you seem not to be hearing to Adrian. There may be problems with the network again. You are saying there's some problems. So issues of network. Let's go back to Patience. I see Adrian is now off the conversation. Let's go to Patience.
Was called, which sounded a bit prophetic, that the country will not die. Its young people will save it. So through this sort of like personification statement, he uses death as a representative of collapse of unity. He uses death as a representative to represent collapse of rule of law. He uses death as a representative to represent the deterioration situation of the socio-economic livelihoods of the people. Mind you, this is at a time when you made this the statement at a funeral of a national hero.
we seem to have lost Adrian there, maybe due to network problems. We couldn't hear him. There was a break through in terms of when he was speaking there. His line was breaking. Let's try to go back to Patience. Patience, I see you're still there. Unfortunately, you've lost Tafato Mugwati from ZANU-PF. He left the conversation. I don't know. He was speaking about the issue of time. But I was allocating time to everyone, 10 minutes per speaker. I don't know what you were speaking about. But let's go back to Patience there on the issue raised by other speakers. What's your reaction to what Velile spoke about and what Tulisi Anana spoke about on the issue of young people saving the country and going forward to next year, having people there having the capacity or potential to save the country as you go to the polls? Patience, what's your reaction to those presentations?
Thank you so much, Brighton. Unfortunately, Comrade Tafadzwa could not be with us at this moment, but it was going to be an exciting conversation, because sometimes as political leaders or as politicians, because you just have to be patient. That means even the people that we represent, we need to be patient with them also. So myself, I would want to say, of course, I could hear other people talking more of the past rather than the future now. Because yes, we understand that they fought for us to be where we are today, but it's 42 years ago, which means, yes, we still honor our heroes for that great job they did. But today it's all about us right now as young people, because if we do not take up the space now, it means the next generation, we just have those lazy people, corrupt people who only care about their pockets and not care about the community they represent. Look right now at the development of this nation, Chayo Breton. You look at the roads, you look at the communities, check out how the communities were built years back. You could see that in communities we could have spaces where young people, because they do not have anything to do right now, so young people could go to the community halls and play netball and play soccer, just to make sure that they occupy their minds. Right now, the young people, because they do not have anything to do, there is no food at home, there are no jobs, there is nothing that we can do as young people to occupy ourselves. So we end up talking drugs. We end up not understanding that you can enjoy your own money that you are working to use. So we end up use with these political leaders to go and fight ourselves as young people, because mostly it's the young people from this political party fighting the other young people in that party, and the people that we are fighting, they'll be sitting together, because we understand that there are no political there are no political enemies forever, but we can still sometimes disagree, but still end up knowing that we are from Zimbabwe. We are the majority of Zimbabwe population as young people. Of course, we have different political values, but what unites us is we are young people. So myself, I am saying, in ZANU-PF, give young people opportunities to be in council offices, to be in parliament, to be at any ministerial level, because they have the power. Imagine right now, are you telling me that in the whole of ZANU-PF, there is no one single female who can be a female president or female VP? I mean, to have persons a VP in that political party. So I'm just saying, political leaders give young people an opportunity. Kungaba kuZAPU, kungaba ku which political party. And I'm just crying to give young people an opportunity to stand now, and we show you that we are capable to represent. We are fresh, Brighton. Young people, we have the power, we have the energy to represent people. Imagine if the parliament with young people who are energetic, do you think we could sleep in parliament? Because we will know. But these people, because they are tired, they forgot why they are even in parliament. Some of them, they don't even know why they are in parliament. And the other issue is that I would want to say to the young people, don't be used by these political people to fight another fellow young person in your community, because you do not know someone who will help your child in the future generation. You don't know someone who stands by you. As young people, let's be able to stand represent about different political parties, because some Brighton, and you have the zeal, you have you know, you are inspired by a political party. So sometimes myself, I may see something bad in ZANU-PF because that is what I understand. Because right now, of course, I work, but I do not have money for the past 4 months. I don't have the salary because I feel like the economy, I wanted this political party. So myself, I will stand in my party. But there is someone in ZANU-PF who feel like, when the opposition, we are wrong. But we are saying as young people, it's okay to believe in your political party, which is good or bad, whatever. But let's unite and let's be able to represent ourselves. At that tender age, what's stopping us as young people to take those spaces and speak up? And why is it the government is always there to kind of punish us as young people? Because is it wrong, Brighton, to say we do not have water in Chitungisa? It means myself, I will need 2 liters to use for cleaning myself, my private parts after using the toilet. So I'm saying in Chitungisa we do not have water, and someone would say I'm not patriotic for saying that. So should I say keep silent in everything I do? I used to be inspired by my late brother Mkomadewa. You could tell you that sometimes people in the communities, we forget that despite our political difference, we need development in our nation. We still need to see that young people are put on drugs because there are no jobs, but there is someone who is at a position of power who is failing to open that mind to listen to someone who does not belong to your party. Because sometimes people do not listen to you because we have different political values. But so there are people in the ruling party, and there are people in the opposition, but they are not at those spaces because of the gatekeepers that we have talked about, which they are gatekeepers. Why are you still in parliament 15 years more in parliament? What are you still doing there?
Allow me to come through the questions maybe after your presentation right now. But let's talk about the issue of young youth party. You have seen Matebele North, Matebele and South, as well as Bulawayo. There is the youth now in terms of registering to vote. There are fewer people who are going to register to vote. Let me bring Tulisa Nana as well as Velile Moyo into this conversation as well to say, where are the young people? I was looking at the issue of Bulelima by-elections. There were a few young people going there to cast their votes. Where are the young people? Will they be able to serve the country without registering to vote? Tulisa Nana, I'm keeping you 2 minutes as well as Velile Moyo to speak about the issue of voting in Zimbabwe. Where are the young people?
Brighton, I think the critical thing is not necessarily where the young people are. And the other thing is, you must realize that we cannot change a generation in 3, 4, 5 months. The reason why I'm saying this is because initially I said that our young people have not understood what needs to happen. That's why you will not find them in spaces where you would expect them to be at. There is still a strong belief that all we are doing now, we are all looking for a better life for ourselves. We have lost the collective drive for us to get a better life for everyone via participation in national processes. So where are our young people? Our young people are either at the passport office queuing for a passport, or they're at the border, or they're online applying for a visa out of the country, or they're looking for an opportunity to leave. Our young people in the diaspora. That's point one. Point two, we have young people that are hustling. They have not seen the benefits of having a proper government. So to them, it's normal. Number two, they have also participated in elections before. You have seen elections come and go, and them, the election not delivering the desired results. So our young people are no longer in that space where they feel that an election can change anything for them. So there's a requirement for us from us now to make sure that our young people are brought from wherever they are to come and participate within the political context and the political processes of the country, so that there can be a change that can be delivered for them. Unless and until they believe that the change that can be delivered by an election or via an election will benefit them, there is no way we will see them participating in electoral processes. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mthulisi Anana, for sharing that. Let's go to Velile. Velile, where are the young people? I was speaking about the Bulima by-elections. There were a few young people going to cast their election, their vote. We went to Matopo as well to see during the by-elections, there were a few young people casting their votes. Where are the young people as we go towards 2023 elections? Will we see young people stepping up and going to cast their vote?
Okay, Brighton, I think some of the things Hanana has actually highlighted there. There's what is called a utilitarian benefit. It doesn't matter even if I belong in Zimbabwe, but there's one thing that motivates me is the utilitarian benefit which I actually get out of the services that the government actually gives over to me. So we're looking at the young people who actually do not see any need of belonging or do not see any need of getting involved in certain affairs of the nation because they feel like it's not benefiting them. Zarana is saying one is at the photo, one is borders crossing, one is looking for a job in the UK. So people have fallen into that trap to say, we are not benefiting anything out of Zimbabwe. What's the point of voting? And then it also goes back to the issue of tradition to say, tradition is also inspiring people not to go and vote. Because even us, we are here, we took it upon ourselves to say, okay, let's do something in terms of political contribution. But our parents were telling us that, what's the point? They were not even going to vote. They were saying, what's the point of going to vote? Because even if we go and vote, it doesn't make any difference. So tradition actually is one other contributing aspect that makes young people to not go to vote. They are copying it from their own parents. I'm talking from the tradition within the context of elections. We have got very few voters in this. And also the other aspect, Brighton, would be the generational transformation, which I believe has lagged in Zimbabwe. We are looking at today, look at other nations globally and see how generational transformation has happened. You'll see that young crop of leaders, look at France, look at even Britain now. Look at most of these countries. They are bringing up young leaders. Upesh was actually saying, within the political parties, let people promote people to go into positions of power. That also will inspire to do that. So in this aspect, I think we still have a long way to go, because as long as people don't have that consciousness or persuasion to say, I need to claim the freedom for myself, that means we have lost it at all. So as Upesh is saying, Umgwaj was supposed to be here also to give us a picture as a ruling party. What is it factors that they are actually working on to help to create an environment where young people can actually be active? But I think as opposition political parties, we are trying to do our best, but the narrative is being driven by the ruling party, which is the one that actually feeds us to propaganda. And they use state machinery to try and suppress all the freedoms of conscience. It is affecting our people as well.
Thanks so much, Mr. Velile from MRP, for sharing your thoughts there around the issues of young people in terms of apathy. Where are the young people? We spoke about some of them, patients spoke about some of them needing motivation, some of them having different priorities, as well as what can be done to encourage young people to go out in like numbers to register to vote. I see I have different people have just joined the space here. I have Flora. Do you want to say something, Flora? Do you want to say something? Okay, I'm Swan Lova. I see you here as well. Do you want to say something?
Thank you very much, Brighton, and thank you to your panelists. Very interesting subject you speak about, and quite inspiring views from the late President, Dr. Joshua Nkomo. But I would want to interrogate a different angle, and this angle is about an inspiration by our current leaders to young people. We young people can only participate in processes out of an inspiration by their leaders. I believe that the lack of participation by young people is due to Brighton, can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear. So go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I believe that young people lack the inspiration because of the behaviors and values that are being promoted by those that occupy power. It started with the so-called First Republic of Robert Mugabe, where killing of people, killing of neighbors, killing of tribes was fashionable. And it came to what is called the Second Republic today, where a whole vice president like Kembo Mohadi ends up losing his job as a result of his womanizing and philandering, and especially with young children. We know of a story of a lady called Mary Mubaiwa, who was married to a current vice president and was left to fend and die by his powerful husband, and denied access to her own children. We know again of another lady who claims to have been abused by the current president. So our leaders are sending a very wrong signal to our youths to participate in electoral processes. But the prophecy by President Joshua Nkomo will not be in vain. That is why today you see that in the last elections, a young man stood up, defied all odds, and contested elections and almost pushed for an electoral runoff. That is why political parties like ZAPO today deploy young people, and we have probably the youngest Secretary General in the Southern Hemisphere representing the party at that highest political organ. That is why today we see young ladies like Patience Mashiri, who are occupying space and defending what is morally and politically right for our future generations. It is because of the inspiration of the prophecy by the late great President Dr. Joshua Nkomo. Thank you very much, Brighton.
Thank you so much, Msondo, for that contribution. I see we have Andren from APA just joined us there. He was facing problems with the network. Andren, let's try again. Can you hear me, Andren? Try to unmute your mic.
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Yes, you can go ahead. If your problem, your network is a problem, please do not give us your camera. Just go ahead for the audio, and then we can hear you, sir.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, just so maybe I can just keep it brief and then summarize just to finish what I prepared for this discussion. Since my network is giving me problems. Right. So I'm not sure where I was at but then I think the last how the statement seems to be today, looking at how corruption is rife now, looking at issues that some of them police are attached to on lawfare, how lawfare is being used today, how this has become a government of law. So I find it a bit fitting considering the experiences of Joshua Nkomo and what is happening today, that he made such utterances, because now in hindsight, we see that Joshua Nkomo really understood, or maybe could see where the country was headed in the right direction that was supposed to be headed to be. So, Joshua Nkomo understood the role that the youth should bring, like the youth should play in bringing contemporary knowledge, in bringing fresh insight into some key developmental issues. So the way I prepared my presentation was I was going to make my submission in. I was going to couple our topic with three quotes, right? Which will maybe give into and then that's going to explain some of the key things that are hindering young people from quotation. This quote was from Friends for Security, discover its mission, betrayed of our generation, should be to fulfill our kids of our liberator to life. Our task should be to make sure that we don't allow Zimbabwe to die, like Joshua Nkomo put it. This goes for every young person. This goes for the youth, most importantly, because we constitute the bulk of the nation. We are nearly 70% of Zimbabwe. This calls for us to be at the forefront of ensuring good governance through constitutionally demanding accountability. We should demand rule of law.
Andren, I seem not to be getting you there. Your network is bad. I seem not to be hearing you. And for maybe, Velilet, can you hear Andren? Mama said I can't hear him.
Yeah, I can't hear him anymore.
So I guess he's facing some problems with network there. But also, it's a great discussion this afternoon where we're talking about the issues of young people serving the country. Yeah, young people serve the country. We have seen over the past years young people being used as conduits of violence. We have seen again in elections where young people still remain being part of the youth wings, but never contest to become maybe part of the executive council, those who make final decisions, but remain as part of the youth wings. So interesting discussions right there. Mtulisi Anana raised the issue of land. Young people don't have the land in Zimbabwe, but however, it is said that there was a land run program, but however, people remain landless. Again, we want to speak about Lookout Masu, the likes of Joshua Mkabu going to join the strike at a tender age. But where are the young people now? Again, reflecting on the issue of the by-election in Zimbabwe, we have seen in Mahima Topo where the turnout from young people was quite low, but we've seen old people going to cast their vote. Where are the young people? Will they serve the nation as we go towards the polls next year? Will they serve the country? Are they serving the country right now? Are they part of the council chambers? Are they part of the parliament right now? Are they serving the community? Are they serving the country? You have seen now that the MPs in Zimbabwe have been given $40,000. Are the young people serving the country? Are they receiving this money? What are they going to do in terms of developing their constituencies? It's a great. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us this afternoon. Thanks so much, Velile, for joining us this afternoon. Thanks so much to Patience Ati Mashiri for joining us as well. Thanks so much to Hanana from Zapu, the SG from Zapu, for joining us also this afternoon. Andre, still trying your network, but it's a bad network. So I think let's end our discussion right there today. We're going to have more of these conversations going forward as we go to the elections and going to invite more guests. I'm hoping to invite again Tafatsa Mugwadi from ZANU-PF to join us in future to talk and give us his perspective coming from ZANU-PF. Unfortunately, today he faced some problems there and he left the meeting. So unfortunately, the show had to go on. And then thanks so much to everyone that joined. Thanks so much for your time. To those joining us on Facebook, thank you so much for following. My name is Brighton Nove. I'm part of the Dumiso Danga Foundation. Please do follow us on Twitter as well as on Facebook, and to get more of these updates of these coming up conversations as we go towards the polls. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.